Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be replacing my 15-year-old chain and sprocket on my 2007 Honda CBR600. So I bought this bike with 12,000 miles on it, so I'm very confident that the chain and sprocket are the OEM from the factory. I have just over 32,000 miles on this bike now. I've reached the chain replacement limit on the rear swing arm, so it is definitely time for a new chain and sprocket. So I have a kit down below here from Sprocket Center. Definitely check out their website. I'll have that link down in the description. They have a ton of options for pretty much every single bike, whether you want the chain, the sprocket, or a kit just like I got. So definitely check them out. So today's video isn't going to be too difficult. We do have some specialty tools that I will be using, as I'll show you here soon. But the first thing that I'd like to do is loosen my front sprocket just to make sure I can get that bolt off before I start tearing the rest of the bike down. I do have a cover covering that sprocket as well. I'll use an 8mm socket, and then I may have to remove the shift linkage as well just to get a little bit better access. And then to loosen the shift linkage, I do have a 10mm wrench in order to loosen this up. So instead of trying to remove all of these hoses that are in the way, I found these two that are right on the back side that I can easily move out of the way just to give me a little bit more wiggle room. I'm not removing these two thicker ones, and I think I can get by with having those two out of the way. And just wiggling this a little bit, there's like a metal lip on the back side. There we go. So this metal lip here was what was caught on the back side of the chain. So I'm gonna clean this up before I put it back on. And so now with a 14mm socket, I can wiggle my way in between both of those hoses. And I do have the bike in first gear to help keep that sprocket from moving. And then I need some leverage. So I have the bar from my lift that I can use to make this much easier. And just like that, I have it loose. Now I have the bike up in the air. I went ahead and loosened the rear swing arm bolt, which was an 1.25" socket that I used. Now comes the fun part. I have the angle grinder. What I need to do, you need to find the master link on your chain, which is going to be very obvious. It's much different than the rest of them. And this is where we're going to take the angle grinder to grind away this rivet portion on the outer side. Basically, I want to get it smooth with this outer plate. From there, I can use a chain breaking tool to go ahead and pop this out. So first, we need to get those nice and smooth. Safety first. So I have all the appropriate gear on. Here we go. So with that all ground off, I went ahead and popped out the lower one just to get familiar with this chain breaking tool. Now I'll have a link to this down in the description below. A lot of the ones that I found were triple digits, so far I'm impressed with this one. We'll see how well it works putting the new chain back on, but in order to use this, we have two different areas on the side. One is a 14mm, one is a 17mm, and the goal is to get this nice and flush with the chain. So I'm just going to spin this where you can see it is pretty secure. I'm going to use the 17 just to snug this up and make sure that it has good contact with the chain. And then from there, we can push that pin out using these smaller ones. So there's a long needle basically on the inside of this thread that is going to go straight through the chain and pop it out on the other side. So with the amount of grounding away that I did, makes this process much, much easier. I don't think this has the strength to get through all of that steel. So you definitely need to do the angle grinder because right now this is fairly easy and the pin is going to come out the other side. There's a hollow exit for the pin to just pop out. The first one kind of went flying and there it is. So it didn't go flying this time, but now that we have both of those pins out, I can take this all the way back out because obviously that pin is still through it. So I need to take this out almost as far as I can. However, you can use this one too to further loosen it. And there we go with the old chain. So I should be able to slide this out. And this is the factory, has to be the factory 15-year-old chain. And I'm gonna move back to the front sprocket and take this out. Not sure how long this bolt is, pretty short there. So we have that bolt. I should be able to pop this right off. There we go. So that is the original sprocket. I have the new one over there, which we'll get to here. And so with that removed, I can further loosen the swing arm bolt. And then I do also have to make adjustments for this rear tire as it's stretched all the way as far back as it can possibly go. I will have to take some smaller tools. If you can see right here, chain replacement and new. So basically what I need to do is get this line all the way back to new, and then I can set the chain from there with the size that I need. So from here, I can wiggle this tire out. It is a little bit difficult. Just have to kind of keep it held up to pull this all the way out. Now it's time to move on to the reinstallation of the front sprocket. Very simple to do with the one bolt. I did tighten that one down a good bit. And then moving on to the back one now, I have my bar out again for some extra leverage to go around these and loosen all of these. So it's going to take a little bit more time, but it's fairly simple and straightforward. And I am reusing all the hardware in today's video. So out with the 15-year-old sprocket and with the sweet new black one. And with the sprocket back on the tire, I went ahead and reinstalled it. I have everything nice and secure and snug down. I even moved the tire as far forward as it goes. There is a sticker on my bike that tells me new versus replace chain. So I have it lined up with the new marker. Everything is nice and secure. The front sprocket is also nicely snug down and in place. So now it is time to install the new chain. I have that laid out next to the stock chain, and they are almost the same length. This one is obviously stretched, so it is a little bit longer, and I have this pretty cool new gold chain. What I love about this kit too is that it is the exact size. I do not have to cut this, I don't think so. Once we put it on the bike, everything should line up, and I have the master link here all set and ready to go with all of those, as well as that breaker tool that I'm going to reverse and to be able to put that master link back on. So I made one small mistake, and that is the fact that my new mark on my bike didn't line up with this chain. So I had to push the tire further forwards, and now as you can tell, they completely line up with where the master link has to go. So in order to install the master link, there are a few of these washers where I will install as the chain falls there, but I will install one on each side first. So that's gonna be on the outer link. From there, I have the grease that comes with the kit, and I'm just gonna put some, basically like you're doing Loctite, and kind of just get it all around this link. And I'm gonna do this first before we push this through. All right, and so I have that pushed through. Took a little bit of wiggling and just to get that chain kind of stretched enough for those to go through. So now that we have that in place, I can put the other washers on this side, and I have a little bit more grease. I think I'll just kind of get this side a little bit if I can. Not a whole lot, just to get it around. All right, and so with that in place, it is time to take the new end plate and line that up just like that on the outside. And to move on to securing this master link now, I do have a micrometer with me because what I need to do is make sure that this link is the same width and in line as the other links. If it's too far out like it currently is, it could risk not going around the sprocket correctly or falling off. If it's too tight, it might get pinched or bound up. So with this micrometer, I'm gonna measure the two side by side or right next to it. So that way I have basically my stock measurement. And then from there, we are still a little bit too wide. I'm going to take the chain breaker tool. I went ahead and removed the end of it as well as that needle. And what I'm gonna do with this flat portion is basically start to press this and rivet it in back to place in a sense. So I have my 17 that I'll use, and I'm going to turn each of them maybe 2 or 3 times, just go back and forth as even as I can, and that way it'll kind of just stay even as I go back and forth. So with one done, I'll move on to the other one here, and like I said, I'll just keep going back and forth, do my measurements to make sure that I don't have it on too far. With this end plate now on the master link, I went ahead and mushroomed the lower section just to get familiar or more familiar with this tool. Like I said in the beginning of the video, it's really good to break the chain. However, there are some pieces missing or that other kits have that this one does not. one thing that I needed to do was get a solid metal piece of steel for this side here. Some other kits have a solid portion, so that way when you put this on and you're pushing the plate on, you don't accidentally push the pins out farther that way. So make sure you have a back plate when you're putting that on, so that way you don't push that pin out. And from there, I also found that this kit had 2 different needles on the inside. So this is the one I've been using for this video. It's kind of a little bit flatter. This one right here is a little bit more beveled, and I found that that is going to go inside this hole and flare that hole from the inside out to make it a little bit larger. You want this to be flared out larger than the actual hole for this outer plate. So the post actually is around 15 millimeters, and this outer section now is closer to 17. So we flared out just a little bit more, so that way this plate on the end of the master link won't risk coming off. So now we're gonna jump to the upper section there, where I do need to use a metal plate once again on the back side. I do wish that this lower section screws out. I wish there was a solid one for this tool, but again, for the money, it's a very cheap tool. But with this metal plate on the back side, what I'm going to do is loosen this enough to start to put that needle through the end of the hole for that post. Now what I also want to do is back this needle out, because I don't want to risk bending it or damaging it. So I'm going to have it as kind of far back as I can, right about there. And with everything set from there, I'm just going to turn the larger one. So I'm not going to push pressure from the needle. I'm just going to turn the larger one. That's with the 17 millimeter again. And as you saw earlier, I have that micrometer to measure. So I'm just going to keep doing this until I get that right measurement. So for a first measurement, the upper one you said is right around 10.
Now it's like 11.
11. And the hole or the post was 15. So we need to keep flaring that out. I only did a few turns. And the lower one, just again for another reference,
it's about 18.
18. So yeah, we have a little bit more work to do on that upper one. And I hope the camera can pick that up. May or may not be able to see it on camera, but this one's definitely a lot larger. And with the master link now installed, I have a brand new chain after 15 years for this Honda CBR. It really wasn't a hard project. Took me right around 2 hours, and with the proper tools, as you saw in today's video, it was pretty much a piece of cake. A few bolts to take everything apart. Some things that I may not have shown on the reinstall was just like how it came off. So it's pretty simple and straightforward. Now I have a new setup where I can take this on some more rides and have peace of mind that I have a brand new chain. So once again, check out Sprocket Center. I'll have that link down in the description. They have a huge selection. You can get chains, kits, just a sprocket. Whatever you need, check them out. That link is down below. Give this video a huge thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Consider smashing that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our daily uploads. I will see you all in the next video.